Welcome to Anime Adventures. This is the show where I bring you interviews with people in the anime and Comic-Con world. I'm your host, I'm Elise Baughman, and this video is part of an exclusive Kamea-Con series. It's brought to you by Con Live, which is the company that brings you the experience of live conventions right into the comfort of your own home. Now, today's special guest is Bruce Faulconer. He is a musician, he is a composer, and he's a record producer. And in the anime world, he is best known for being the composer for Dragon Ball Z for a majority of the episodes, from the Japanese episode number 68 all the way through the end of the series. Outside of the anime world, man, the amount of work he has done is just tremendous. He is award-winning, and he is joining us here today. Let's bring him on. It's the one and only Bruce Faulconer.
Hi there, Elise.
Hi, I'm so glad you could join us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, and hello out there, all you Dragon Ball Z fans and Kamea-Con and Con Live fans. It's great here to be on Anime Adventures.
Yes, we've got people joining us live, and then this will live on Anime Adventures. Now, I have to start off right off the bat. I want to find out how you came to be as the composer for Dragon Ball Z. How did that happen? I would love to hear that story.
Well, it's really a random, wild event. I was working on a PBS show and writing music during the afternoon that day, and I got this phone call, and the voice on the other side turned out to be Gen Fukunaga, the president of Funimation.
Really?
The guy says, we're looking for a composer, and we wanted to see if you'd be interested in writing music for our anime show Dragon Ball Z. And I'm getting this call out of the blue. It's like, yeah, sure, right.
Right.
You get all kinds of calls, and sometimes they're real, and sometimes they're kind of out there, and it's like, but you got to take it seriously because it may be one of those real things, and
right.
And in this case, it turned out to be absolutely bona fide real. It was a real call from the real Gen, and so we chatted for about half an hour, and I was sitting there visualizing what he was describing as what was a show, and actually during the conversation I wrote out 4 bars of music. And
like right there in your first conversation, you wrote out some bars of music?
Yeah, I just grabbed a piece of paper and I drew out 5 lines. And I had to draw them out, I drew out about so much, and then I had to draw out a little bit more because I wrote 2 measures, and it's like, oh wait, I got a little bit more of the idea, and I did 2 more measures, and so there were 4 measures, and it ended up being the first 2, all 4 measures ended up being the theme for Dragon Ball Z, because he was talking about Goku, this hero, and how he was making things right in the universe and defending everybody, and so I kind of went da 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 da. So it was just like it was one of those moments that's like an inspiration, and it turned out that later on, several episodes later, the second half of that theme becomes my theme that became almost the most, I guess it's the most famous, because it's the most popular, go figure. But it's the SSJ3 theme.
Oh,
so
yes.
If you listen, da 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 da, now, da 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 da, da 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 da. That became the SSJ3 theme because it was related to Goku for me, and so I just took the second half of the first 4 measures, which was that idea in that first phone call, and those two songs are even right now on the top 5 of say when you're listening on Spotify, you go there, they're in the top 5 of the songs I wrote.
Yeah, it's such iconic music. And I have a follow-up question to that, but I do want to acknowledge we've seen Karen Panjwani, Roberto, oh, and somebody else just popped up. Karen Panjwani popped up again. That SSJ3 theme was one of his favorites. So several people have said hello. I didn't catch exactly what they said, but I do want to take this moment to say, hey, if you have comments, if you're watching us live, please leave your comments. Please leave your questions for Bruce. We will try to get to as many as we can. But right now, I do want to take a moment and kind of do a follow-up on that, because you mentioned that music for Goku. I would love to hear your thought process for some of those iconic musical moments or theme songs for some of the characters. Can you talk a little about the thought process that you have or had in composing those musical theme songs or moments?
Well, as I learned more about the show when I first studied, it became apparent that this was the arcs that were involved in the storyline were long and significant, and these characters would be presented in different scenes and different reiterations of themselves as they go through, even like SSJ and SSJ 2 and 3 and so on.
Yeah.
And as they fought different foes, that I knew that in order for the music to be coherent through 291 episodes, I wanted to use the concept of leitmotifs, like Richard Wagner's Ring cycle for his operas. So that was kind of an inspiration for me. In every character is going to have a theme, and depending on how the character is relating in a certain scene or a certain episode, that theme might be dark or bright or heroic or vanquished, and so each of the themes go through these kind of permutations depending on what's happening to the character. And by having each character have their own theme, you would know in the story who you were dealing with and who was fighting who, and it for me was a way of weaving together over 70 hours of music and having some unification to it. Another place, for example, with Goku's theme, which is minor and dark, because it's in minor key, and bum ba da bum bum ba da da dum. Well, in the very last episode of the very last of the series, 291, Goku waving goodbye and everything's great and the world is all reunited and happy again, and you hear the Earth theme, da 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 da, and contained in that piece of music is also Goku's theme, but it's in major this time. Bum ba dum bum bum ba da bum bum. So that time it's happy and triumphant. And my only regret in that scene was that they had such a short scene that the music couldn't be very long, because it was, I forget, it's like 45 seconds, or it's less than a couple of minutes. I know it's less than a minute probably too. That I had to do that. So
yeah, you were limited. Well, I loved what you touched on, where you said that the music was almost an identifier for the character, because you think of the voice actor being associated with the character, but music identifies the character so much too. And sometimes we're very aware of that, and then sometimes we're not, but we just know that we have a feeling and an emotion, and it's because of the music.
Yeah, that's important that the music help tell the story and yet be in the background. That's why they call it background music. So I wanted to write music that help tell the story, help tell the scene, not be in the way of dialogue, and just be able to be there without being so over the top that it vanquishes the storyline. I wanted it to support the storyline. So that's the important thing when you're doing background music. And I think that helps in an anime to keep the plot supported, and the characters. You know what the characters are doing, and it gives you just an extra dimension. And the thing that I take away from it that I really like is the music on its own is visual, and you can imagine and see the characters, and you can think about their story and what's going on with it. So that's the other part of it I think as well.
Yeah. And I just saw Alvaro, I hope I said that right, came on and said legend, and you are a legend. And something that I want to ask you about, because you are doing this for your fans and your supporters, is I want to ask you about Dragon Amnesty, which is something that you're composing. Will you talk a little about that?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Dragon Amnesty is a piece that has been commissioned. We closed the successful Kickstarter campaign in October, and I have a 7-minute first movement finished, orchestrated and performed. I'd have to record, mix, and master it next, and still writing on the second half of the piece. And I have I thank you all my Kickstarter backers out there who helped make the Dragon Amnesty commission possible. And there was a couple of days at the end of December, just around the holidays, where I got really inspired, and I wrote about 5 minutes of the piece at that point, and 8 hours on a Saturday, and 8 more hours on the next day on Sunday, and it was getting to where my fingers were about to fall off my hand. I was so tired. And I had to rest for a couple of days because they were starting, like, cuticle starts to move away from your fingernail, and you hit the key, and it's like, ouch! It played for so many hours.
Well, and we just had 2 people come on and say they were part of your Kickstarter, because you do have a Kickstarter for this. I see Stephanie. Hey, Stephanie, best composer. His music always gave me the chills when watching Dragon Ball Z. Wow.
Thank you.
You do have such great supporters. So if people do want to be part of this Kickstarter program, how do they find out about that if they're not already supporting you in this?
Well, the great thing is I decided after Kickstarter, because it's a one-time thing and it's time constrained.
True.
So I discovered Patreon. So patreon.com/Bruce Faulconer will get you to my Patreon, and you can join that and get updates on my music. And hey, Roberto, thank you. You can get updates on what I'm working on now, and I'm releasing music that's not out there, and little snippets of things. Like I wrote a little theme song for something called Hair Doctor. Thanks, Omar. And
hey, Omar.
So there's a little 20-second snippet of music that's on Patreon that's not out there in the real world, that's this Hair Doctor guy, and that was fun to write. So
oh, great. Okay, so they can support you on Patreon. And I should also say that there are virtual meet and greets available. So if you would like to talk to Bruce or get something signed, you can do that, and you can get more information at conlive.com. So we've got the actual website scrolling down below us. So definitely take that opportunity to talk to Bruce. You know, another project I wanted to ask you about, which funny enough has a dragon featured in it, is A Little Spark. Will you talk about A Little Spark? Oh, there it is.
Yeah, A Little Spark. I met Chris Parsons about a year and a couple of months ago, and we hit it off really great, and wrote a couple of songs for him, and that became 12 songs for his first book, A Little Spark. that hit the stands in October, and it's the number one selling book on Amazon. Again, number one selling children's music book.
Wow.
On Amazon.
Really?
And we have the 12 songs out on an album that's on Amazon as well, and on iTunes by the same name, a little more. And so we wrote these and performed these 12 songs. And the book is kind of for all generations, but it's especially for younger children. And so families can get together and read the book, and they can listen to the music. It's an interactive audio book as well. And it's an interactive book with QR codes, and you take your phone and you you actually can go into the book and actually hit that QR code, and there are QR codes throughout the story as well. So like here's one, and that QR code will bring you up to a really awesome kind of how do you describe it? It's sort of a hard rock sounding song that we did, and
that's really cool.
So those QR codes are pretty awesome because it becomes interactive, and so they can call up and they can listen to the music while they're reading the book and telling the story.
Yeah.
And there's even a fun place for kids who can use a QR code, and they can take pictures of themselves with some of the characters of the book.
Oh, that's so fun. What age range is that for?
I would say for sure second grade and under.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's perfect.
But a few older kids enjoy the book too, maybe with their younger siblings.
Yeah, I love how interactive it is. That's really cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, Chris Parsons is very state-of-the-art, very talented writer and lyricist and songwriter, and it's just a pleasure working with Chris. We're actually working on the second book. We just started working on the second book, songs.
Nice.
So we're going to have an entire new series of songs as well.
Wow. Now I want to bring it back around to the anime world because you worked on another anime project, and I think you have the DVD with you, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Lady Death, and boy, that is hard to see, but.
Oh, there you go.
There, yeah.
And there we go.
So there's Lady Death. That was a fun, intense project. Spent about a half a year on that, doing sound design, audio re-recording, mixing, and audio post-production on it. And it's out there. I think you can still see it on Amazon. And it's an 82-minute feature film, original animation done it was produced in the United States, and they did the anime cells, I think, and they did those overseas. It was in Korea, I think. The animation cells were done, but the main project cells were done here in Texas. Actually in Houston, and I got to work with another composer. He did the music for it. He had been working on the music project about 6 months before I found the project, and so I got to do all the sound effects and the sound design, the magic sounds, the audio re-recording, and the mixing, and you start out with a feature film that's an anime, and it's heavily sound design based and sound effects based, you start with total silence. And so there are about 90 tracks of audio in this project, and it's surround sound as well to even further complicate the challenges of getting it in. And so you've got foreground sounds like people fighting and swords and stabbing, and you've got background sounds like the weather, the wind. You've got horses and armies, and personal sounds of the people right in front of you, and all that's back in the background. And you've got dialogue, and then you've got the music to mix as well. And so Bill Brown.
That's a lot.
Did that in music.
That is a lot. And somebody just came on and said, man, I love the score for that. So that's pretty cool but you did so much on that. Now, a lot of people on my channel have a passion that they're pursuing, whatever that is, whether it's art or acting or something else. So if they do want to become a musician or become a composer, do you have recommendations for them?
Sure. I started out, by the way, I was composing when I was 10.
Oh, you were? Really?
I had piano lessons and started at 10 years old. A lot of people.
Okay, I started piano about the same age, but I did not take it as far as you. So how did that evolve for you?
My first piano teacher, you had to do the music theory stuff. So she gave me this blank staff book full of music staves, and it's like exercise 1: draw treble clefs and bass clefs, full notes, half notes, and quarter notes. Excuse me. And it's like, oh man, this is a lot of tedious work. This is boring. This is not what this is for. And I'm looking at the music, I'm having to practice. It's like, this is blank music. This is for writing music. So I started writing a little piano piece, and I brought it to her, much to her surprise. And it got to be a routine that if I practiced my piano lesson really well, she'd let me spend the last 5 minutes of the lesson showing her my new music that I just written. So I wrote, and I filled up that first staff book with my little compositions, and then I bought a bigger staff book and started writing more music. When I got to junior high, I picked up the trumpet so that I could play in band, and started with the bugle. And it's like, well, I need the rest of those valves so I can play all the notes of the scale. And so I learned the trumpet, and I started writing music for trumpet and other brass instruments, and so I wrote a bunch of brass quintets. And then in high school, my band director, my freshman year, was great. And he said, how would you like to take one of your pieces of music and score it for band? And
wow.
And it was like, whoa, this is great. And so he liked the piece, and it was one of my piano pieces, and I scored it for band. Then he taught me conducting. So I would, after school, started learning conducting, and in the spring semester of my freshman year, I got to conduct the band in my own piece.
Wow.
So a lot of the seniors were really jealous. So about 5 of them went to the band director, and he ended up giving them one of the other pieces he would have conducted, which was a suite, and he let each one of them conduct one of the movements of that other suite. So we had all of them conducting the band and me conducting my piece, and I even got to do one of my brass quintets in the National Honor Society band in Southern California honor band.
Oh, wow.
My senior year. And then in college, I was an aerospace engineer for 1 semester, and it was my plot to change my major to go to music. And I went to the head of the music department and showed him my Samsonite briefcase, which was like this 3-inch black briefcase, plastic. And in it, I had all my compositions I'd written up in my freshman year in college. And said, if you like my music, and I could pass the final exam in freshman theory, do you think I could major in music? And I actually placed out of the final exam with I think like a 99 or something.
Oh, really?
I hadn't taken the class, but I aced the final. And
they were like, you know your stuff.
And I changed my major. Became a college professor in my 20s.
Man.
And then it was like Ohio State invited me to be a composer in residence.
Mm-hmm.
2 years, all I had to do was write music and go to my office, and I had a piano. And then I went to the McDowell Colony in one of those summers and had a cabin with a grand piano and then the fireplace off to the right. And all I had, no telephone, no outside world, no TV, and wrote
Wow.
summer. And I wrote a piano concerto and a flute sonata. And the sonata was for flute and piano. And then it was like, okay, I'm really enjoying this. I like writing music more than teaching music. Although I enjoyed teaching music because I got to help work with students in music, and
sure,
music's my passion, and so teaching it or writing it is both things I enjoy. But writing it is really the most enjoyable thing. So I moved to Dallas, back to Dallas. I've been teaching at Southern Methodist University in Dallas for a few years, and I knew the terrain, and I just started banging on doors and writing music for this project and that project, both off broadcast and on broadcast. And public PBS became one of my first clients, and then started picking up more and more pieces.
Gosh, what a journey!
So it was a journey. Those people who are out there that want to do something artistic and creative,
mm-hmm.
I always recommend that they practice an instrument and take lessons in it, and if they can study. I'm always a fan of studying something so that you can learn. Take lessons from the professionals. Go to school.
Yeah.
I have a bachelor's degree in music theory and composition, and I have a master's degree in music composition with an emphasis in electronic music, and I have a doctor of music in composition.
Wow.
And I have 2 postdoctoral fellowships from Ohio State, which were my composer in residence there at Ohio State. So,
what an amazing journey you've had. And you're right. Like, I love that it was a journey, but then even when you got to Dallas, you were still kind of pounding the pavement, picking up the phone. And I do think you have to do that. That's what I did as an actor. I mean, I've studied so much. And then, you pound the pavement and it's almost like a sales job. You have to pick up the phone and make the calls and do the work.
And you go to workshops like you did. You went to the Dave Fenoy workshop several years ago at Cake Mix Recording, where I met you.
Yeah, Bruce and I, we were talking about that. I went to, I think it was a Pat Fraley workshop where, Pat Fraley's an animation guy. Well, he does many things, but that's the workshop that I came to at your studio.
Right.
And it was a weekend workshop. It was fantastic. It was all about animation and creating characters. So yes, I'm always taking workshops. So, and you have a fantastic studio. We should say you're at your studio right now. And what room are you in?
Yeah, behind me you see the acoustic back wall of the control booth of the tracking room area. Just over that way is my tracking rooms, and so that you can see them online at CakeMixRecordingStudio.com.
Yeah, he's got fantastic studio. Well, Bruce, thank you so much for joining us. This was fascinating because, like I said, I took piano when I was younger, but I just like the idea of composing stuff and doing what you do is just, it's mind-boggling. It's fascinating to hear you talk about. So thank you.
It's been a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to seeing some of you guys sign up for the February event that is coming up, where I will be autographing things on camera with you guys, and that's February. Maybe Chris can put up a date on there, I hope.
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact date, but if you want to find out, go to the ConLive Facebook page and the ConLive website, which is con-live.com. You can find out the exact date. Well, Bruce, thank you again. If you joined us live today, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. And if you're joining us on Anime Adventures, thank you. I would love for you to subscribe because we're going to have many, many, many more of these types of interviews. So thank you, everybody, and we'll sign off.
Thanks. It's great to have you at this time with you all, and thank you, Elise. I enjoyed today's event.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure seeing you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye now.